Hello friends, my name is Jess and welcome back to my channel, Books Past Bedtime. In today's video, I'm going to be bringing you some more Sapphic book recommendations in honor of International Lesbian Visibility Week. I thought this would be the perfect way to celebrate, and it's been almost 2 years since I filmed one of these videos, and I've definitely read a ton more amazing Sapphic books in the past 2 years that I would like to recommend to you, and these are some of my favorites. So I hope you enjoyed this video, find some good things to add to your TBR and to read during this important week in the Pride calendar. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. I did split my recommendations into genre categories. So I have a few historical fiction books to recommend you, I have a few contemporaries to recommend you, and I have a few that are like SFF, fantasy sci-fi books. So if you're interested in a specific genre, I'll have timestamps in the description. Feel free to skip around. Obviously, I loved all of these books, so I'm sure you will too. So even if you want to read outside your genre, I would kind of recommend. Let's go ahead and jump into it. I am going to start with the historical fiction recommendations. The first book I want to recommend is Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. This is a YA sapphic romance, and it is set in like the 1950s in San Francisco during the Red Scare. Our main character Lily is a Chinese American. She lives in Chinatown with her family, and so this is a very scary time for her and her family. Not only is she going through this discrimination, this uncertain political climate, she also is starting to discover her sexuality. She learns about drag kings. She starts to form this relationship with this girl at school named Kath, kind of explore their sexualities together and eventually have a little bit of a romance. But of course, there's just so much going on in Lily's world. This is definitely like a very heavy story, but it's a really good story. It is so immaculately written. I don't feel like it reads like YA. I think really the only thing that makes it YA is the age of the characters. Both of these girls are 17 in this story, but it definitely reads like older YA, and I think would appeal to pretty much any adult reader as well, because it is just such a well-written story. Lily and Kath are such full, complete characters who go through these horrible situations but are just resilient and so strong and like wonderful to spend time with and to read about. And I really loved Kath and Lily's like sweet, innocent romance. It was really very powerful coming of age story, and I really love this book, and I know a lot of people love this one, and for good reason. It is excellent, and I really wanted to enshrine it in one of these like official recommendation videos because I really do love this book. The next book that I want to recommend has a little bit of a lighter tone, and that is Don't Want You Like a Best Friend by Emma R. Albin. This is an adult historical romance. It's set in the Regency era, so we have like seasons, balls, big dresses, definitely not a lot of queer acceptance. And this story, like I mentioned, very lighthearted, very fun. We have our two main characters, Beth and Gwen. Beth and Gwen are both out for the season on the hunt for a husband. Gwen very much doesn't take it very seriously. She has a good relationship with her dad, who's a single father. It's just kind of a joke that she can't find a husband. She's not really interested in it. During this season, she meets Beth. Now, it's Beth's first season out, and she actually really needs to find a husband for financial reasons to support her and her single mother. She also not super interested in men. She kind of just has to be. She has to do this. But Beth and Gwen meet and strike up this friendship, and then they get this idea into their heads that they won't have to marry if they get their parents to fall in love. Turns out their parents have a bit of a history together. This becomes a parent trap situation, and it's really fun, this like matchmaking situation between Gwen and Beth's parents. I was rooting for their romance just as much as I was rooting for Beth and Gwen's romance, and Beth and Gwen do indeed have a bit of a romance in this book. They just have this innate connection, and they didn't really know that something like this was possible. They feel it, and eventually it kind of blooms and blossoms. I thought this book was really romantic between Beth and Gwen. Of course, I really loved their romance, and I thought it had like a good amount of angst and pining, and also like a fulfilling amount of like them getting together and being together. But I also, like I mentioned, loved the other outside plot of them getting their parents together. I thought it was so fun and just goofy and campy and just a good time. Like, I just had such a good time with this book. It's such a fun, lighthearted read if you're looking for something like that, and I thought it was well written and well done, and I really loved it. I think that this is an excellent book. This is a really good one too if you like Bridgerton or you're like trying to get into historical romances. I would recommend starting with this one. It's an excellent sapphic romance and also just like a fun, accessible historical Regency romp. The next book I want to recommend is Backwards to Oregon by Jay. Now, this is a sapphic historical romance set on the Oregon Trail. I know I've talked about this book a lot on my channel, but I wanted to enshrine it again in one of these recommendation videos because I feel like these are more popular. Some people that don't watch my channel all the time watch these videos, so I wanted to make sure they know about this book because this is a really good book and it deserves a recommendation, and for more people to read it. So anyway, let's talk about it. In this story, we're following Luke and Nora. Luke has been living as a man for the past so many years, like fully integrated socially as a man. There are some discussions of Luke's gender in this book. There is some debate among reviewers. In the book, canonically, she's a woman that lives socially as a man, and that's where we're gonna leave it. You can read it, interpret it how you want. Anyway, so Luke is wanting to get away on the Oregon Trail. She like served in the army, and now she has gotten out and wants to go cross country, wants to start a farm in Oregon. But she's very afraid of her like secret getting out, that she's a woman disguised as a man. So she decides that the best way to kind of combat this is to pretend to be married to somebody, and so she finds Nora. Nora is working as like a prostitute in this brothel. Luke proposes marriage to Nora. Nora's very intrigued by Luke because she's like one of the most respectful men Nora has ever met. So Nora agrees because she wants a better life for both her and her daughter. So Nora and Luke set off on the Oregon Trail. A lot of this book is just them traveling across country and doing mundane Oregon Trail things, which I found fascinating. And then there's also this budding romance between Luke and Nora. It is a very, very slow burn, I will tell you that, but it really is well done. I really enjoyed this one a lot. I don't think it needed to be quite so slow burn, maybe, but once Luke and Nora finally do get together, it is very satisfying, and all of the buildup really does contribute to how much like you want them to be together at the end and how truly fit they are for one another. So ultimately, I did really enjoy this one. I thought it was really well done, very, very well written. The characters were excellent, and I do think that it was just great and fun to read about, and it's like kind of westerny. If you're interested in lesbian cowboys, you know, look no further. This was really good. I really enjoyed this one a lot. All right, now let's talk about some contemporary romances that I want to recommend. The first of which is a book that's been out for a while, but I did double check and I didn't recommend it in my last video because I think I read it after. And that is Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrane. Alison Cochrane is one of my favorite authors of all time. I have loved all 3 of her books, and I think she just recently announced a new book, so I'm so excited. So excited because her books are incredible, and this one is no different. This is a sapphic contemporary romance following Logan and Rosemary. Logan and Rosemary used to be best friends in school. They had a bit of a falling out, now they kind of hate each other. It's quite a few years in the future, and they both actually work as teachers at the high school that they went to and knew each other at, and their mutual favorite English teacher, who they both maintained a relationship with, is dying of cancer, and his last dying wish is for Logan and Rosemary to both take him on a road trip cross country. I think they're in Portland, all the way over to his cabin in Maine, because that's where he wants to live out the final days of his life. And Logan and Rosemary are like, we can't possibly do this, we can't possibly be in a car together for that long, but eventually, out of love for their English teacher, who's like a father figure to both of them, they agree to put up with one another. And so this starts this journey of them having to work together. This like forced proximity trope comes into play, and they kind of have to work through their shit if they're going to survive this road trip. And also this is very like existential about kind of like living life to the fullest, not regretting anything, not letting people like slip out of your grasp when they're really meant to be in your life. Those kinds of messages are like kind of the underlying glue holding everything in this book together. But at the core is this lovely romance between Rosemary and Logan, and I really loved it. I thought it was so romantic. The pining and the yearning is really good in this book. Also, the mental health rep is so amazing. Alison Cochrane is just so good at mental health rep. So good. Feels like takes the thoughts right out of my head and puts them onto paper, and I read it and I'm like, holy shit, that's exactly how I feel. It's crazy. So yeah, I love this book a lot. And if you somehow haven't read it yet as a sapphic romance reader, you really need to, because it is really incredible. One of my all-time favorites for sure. Now, a more recent favorite of mine is How You Get the Girl by Anita Kelly. So this is a contemporary sapphic romance following Elle and Julie. Now, Julie is a high school basketball coach. Elle has a new foster daughter named Vanessa, who is also her niece. Vanessa ends up joining Julie's basketball team. Elle comes in to talk to Julie about the situation because she joined the season late. There's upheaval going on in her home life, just wants to talk to Julie. The catch is that Elle is like a semi-famous college basketball player who Julie like worshipped. Elle is like her favorite basketball player of all time. She was very inspired by her. So when she walks in her gym, Julie is like, oh my god, this is crazy. And there's sort of a bad first impression moment that goes down because Elle has a migraine and Julie is like fangirling over her. But after they kind of work through that initial awkwardness, they start to really work together, and Julie becomes invested kind of in Vanessa being successful beautiful and helping Elle navigate this new relationship with Vanessa. Julie also is asexual. She's never really had like a serious relationship before, and Elle sort of volunteers to kind of fake date her in a low pressure kind of way. Julie also convinces Elle to help her coach the basketball team so that she can spend more time with Vanessa and thus spending more time with Julie. And so throughout the basketball season and this like fake dating scenario, Elle and Julie grow closer and eventually see that they are made for each other and that they're perfect together. I really enjoyed this book. I tend to really like Anita Kelly's stuff. I think that they're just a very talented author. I really loved the asexuality rep in this one. I believe there's also like maybe demi rep in this book. Just a side note. I loved How You Get the Girl. I thought it was so good. I loved the romance between Julie and Elle. I thought it was hot once it got going and it was just really cute. I love sort of like these like chosen family, chosen parent kind of tropes. It's so cute. I don't know. I like a kid fic. Not that Vanessa's like a kid, but I still think watching both Elle and Julie like form sort of parental mentorship relationships with Vanessa is really a really good part of this book. This is just a really fun contemporary romance, fairly low angst, and super cute. I really loved it and would definitely recommend. Now, when I double checked my last video, I couldn't believe that I didn't recommend this one, but I must have also read it after. And that is Satisfaction Guaranteed by Carolia Stets Waters. This is a sapphic contemporary romance, obviously. In this book, we're following Cade and Selena. Now, Cade is like a very serious, buttoned up kind of person, but when their great aunt dies, they inherit her sex toy shop. Cade is like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? So she goes to Portland where the sex toy shop is to kind of see if it's a viable business, if she should keep it, if she should sell it, what she should do. When she gets there, she finds Selena, who works at the sex toy shop, is the sole employee remaining and also had a very close relationship with Cade's late aunt and does not want the store to be sold because it's her livelihood and also she loves it and wants to keep Cade's aunt's legacy going. And so they kind of start butting heads that now that they're working together, they definitely don't want the same things at first, but the more time they spend together, the more they kind of realize that maybe opposites attract and that they are a perfect balance to one another. I thought the romance in this book was so successful because I love an opposites attract romance, but this one did it so well in that neither character really had to change for the other, but they kind of grew together and balanced each other out. Like Cade really grounds Selena and Selena really helps Cade to see life more positively and like have more fun, but they still were always like essentially who they were and it wasn't a bad thing that they were who they were. And I really enjoyed that because I feel like that's such a rare thing to find in a romance book, and I just really appreciated that because it's not like anyone's gonna magically fix you. And you don't need to be magically fixed because, you know, you are who you are. But these characters, I really worked well together and I really enjoyed the romance. And also just the fact of it being set in a sex toy store is just so funny and ridiculous and campy and just so goofy. I loved it. And the writing is just so good. This is another book that I just feel like is so underrated, but it was so fun. I loved the setting, I loved the characters, I loved the romance, and there's actually like quite a few quotes in here kind of about life, and it was just lovely. It's just a lovely book and it's underrated, and I think you should read it if you haven't already. All right, and the rest of my recommendations are SFF. I think I have a few fantasy and a few sci-fi, just cramming them into one category. Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about them. The first of which is The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. Now, don't be scared by how big this book is because it's really not. Like, the writing in it is huge. It didn't really actually take me that long. Like, it is a chunky fantasy book, but it looks scarier than it actually is. Anyway, in the story, we're following Malini and Priya. Malini is a princess who dreams of vengeance, but she has been locked away by her brother who is actually in power, and she has to figure out how the fuck she's gonna escape and start an uprising because her brother is evil. Priya, on the other hand, is sort of like a servant in this castle where Malini is being kept, and she ends up being assigned to like clean where Malini is, and then eventually becomes her like dedicated kind of servant who stays with her all the time. And so this like forced proximity situation kind of endears them to each other, and they start to form this friendship and this alliance. Priya really just trying to survive, but she also kind of has a secret identity because she used to be like a temple child, and she kind of has access to this well of magic, but it's dormant. It's been shut down by those in power, but where this temple used to be is where they're keeping Malini. So there's some interesting things going on with that, but at the main plot, it's Priya and Malini forming this relationship and forming this plan to get Malini out so that she can lead this uprising, this rebellion. And obviously eventually they have a romance. It's not really, this is the first book in a series and I haven't read the rest of the series. There is a little bit, a sprinkle, if you will, of romance in this book, but it's not super romancy, but the main characters are sapphic. This is a fucking amazing book. This is so good. One of the best fantasy books I've ever read in my life. The world is so rich and immaculately like thought up and created and rendered. It is so cool. I love all the characters in here. They're so flawed and but so interesting, and also you just root for them and they like make mistakes but they make up for it, and they just are so fascinating. They're so fully developed and fleshed out. Like every single character in this book. Every single character in this book, pretty much like all the main characters, are women, and so it's just like a fucking badass feminist fantasy book. Books claim to be like feminist and whatever. This is like my kind of feminist because these ladies are out for blood. They are vigilante. They're gonna take the men down and kill them. And it was fucking incredible. I love this book. It is such a good fantasy. So incredible. Led by badass woman, sapphic, incredible fantasy world, exciting plot that will have you flipping the pages. This is such a good book. Everyone needs to read it right now. Another incredible book is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mutar and Max Gladstone. Now I know everyone has read this book, but if you somehow haven't, it's amazing. It's so good. It is so popular for a reason. This is one of the books, one of the very few books that Book Talk has gotten correct. This is really good. And I will say that Book Talk didn't discover this one, and that's how you know it's good. This has been around booktube for a long time. In this book, we're following two characters, Red and Blue. Red and Blue are both spies for opposing sides of this war that's occurring, and they both time travel to be these spies, and they're kind of chasing one another's tails a bit, trying to one-up each other, get the lead on each other throughout space and time. One of them leaves a letter for the other to find one day because they know that they are kind of in direct competition with one another, and it's kind of a taunt, but they begin leaving letters back and forth to each other and end up falling in love through these letters. And then they're in this really complicated situation where they are spies on either side of a war, and so how can they ever be together? It's just this impossible situation, but there's like so much longing, and it's so lovely and heartrending. And this book is just so unique and well written and interesting. And it's such a short book, like you really can just fly through it. I personally found the audiobook too confusing. I thought it was easier to read physically, but that might just be me, I don't know. But I was always pretty intimidated by this book just because of the writing style. It is pretty sparse, and it does kind of just drop you into the action without a lot of explanation. Kind of just expects you to catch up and keep up. I really liked that, and it wasn't as inaccessible as I feared it might be. It was actually just really good, and I really loved it so much. It is honestly like one of the most beautiful romances I've ever read, like so tragically romantic and also just lovely. I really think that this is such a cool book and love that I have it in my collection, and definitely wanted to recommend it in this video. One of the newest books that I wanted to recommend is Junker 7 by Olive J. Kelly. This is a bit of a space odyssey, space heist style book. It is high sci-fi, not set on Earth at all, set fully in outer space. It follows our main character, Castor. Castor is a bounty hunter and takes kind of odd jobs in this world, is really just trying to keep their head down and survive. Juno, on the other hand, is leading the like LGBT activism movement rebellion in this world, because this world far in the future is doing much the same as we're doing right fucking now and going backwards and trying to stifle queer people. So Juno is leading the fight against this, and she does something real bad, becomes a wanted fugitive. And so Castor gets this notification that they have this job proposal that's worth a lot of money. Turns out this job is to smuggle Juno off planet to another planet, kind of where the headquarters of the rebellion is. At first, Castor is like, hell no, I'm not doing that. That is way too dangerous. I'm trying to keep my head down. I'm trying to just survive. Eventually, they are convinced, both by the money and kind of by Juno and Juno's cause, even though they don't really want to admit it. And so it becomes this race across space and time to get away from the intergalactic police force and to save Juno and to keep the rebellion alive. And it's a lot of it about Castor kind of learning to live again because something tragic happened to them in their past that's hinted at. This is kind of what has put them into survival mode for so long, but they kind of learned to stand in their power and that they really like can make a difference and that they should try and make a difference with the voice that they have. It like all of that kind of inspirational stuff, but it was done so well and not like a preachy or like goofy way, if that makes sense. It was really well done. It was really well balanced between these like heavier, serious topics and also two queer people like finding a found family and love between themselves, and it was just great. This is such an underrated book, but such a good one. I really loved it so much, so I definitely would recommend. If you watched my last video, I read this book in it, and I also read Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki, and so I wanted to recommend it as well because if you did watch that video, you saw how much I loved this book. This book is kind of hard to talk about because it's really fucking weird. It is a sci-fi, it's not high sci-fi, it's set on Earth, and it's kind of cozy, but it's also kind of high stakes, and it's also just fucking weird. So we're following our main character, Shizuka. She's really who the whole book revolves around. Shizuka is one of the most talented violinists ever. For some reason, she's lost the ability to play her music, and so in order to regain her ability to play her music, she makes this deal with this devil, and this deal is over the course of 49 years, Shizuka has to deliver the souls of 7 talented violin players to this demon to take to hell. Shizuka has delivered 6. She has 1 year left to find and deliver the 7th soul. She finds Katrina, who is a young transgender runaway who has a bit of a rough violin talent, but Shizuka just knows that like she's the one. Like she has the talent to move people to be a prodigy, she just needs some training. And so Shizuka takes Katrina on as her student and also just like gives her a place to live, like a will to live, and they start forming this sort of a mother-daughter, mentor-mentee relationship, and Shizuka kind of begins to question the morality and the necessity of her deal with the devil. Because she doesn't really want to give up Katrina, even though she would never really admit that because she's called the Ice Queen, the Queen of Hell, like that's kind of who Shizuka is. But there's also this other character. Shizuka has a bit of a sapphic relationship, a sapphic romance with this other character named Lan, who's an alien from outer space. And she and her family escaped from their planet because their planet was like going to war, and so they are building like a bit of a safe house on Earth. Lan and Shizuka are both hiding these like crazy, unreal secrets, and so that's kind of what draws them to each other. They kind of see each other as kindred spirits, and then from there like a friendship and a romance develop. And it's not very like romantic, like I definitely wouldn't call this a romance book. It's definitely just kind of like a sapphic queer sci-fi, but it's so good. Like I just want everyone to read it because it was just so well written. I cared so much about these characters and it was just so beautiful. Like the things that it had to say about life and love and family and belonging and all of these like major themes were just done so well and so concisely and so beautifully and so like impactfully. I just thought this was such a good book. Such a good book. I loved it. I loved it. And I definitely think if you read it, you will love it too. So please read it. And the last book I want to recommend is kind of a bonus recommendation. I wasn't planning to include it in this video, but then I saw it when I was pulling books and I was like, I should recommend that one too. And that is Girl from the Sea by Molly Knox Ostertag. This is a really cute YA graphic novel, and in it we're following our main character, Morgan. Morgan is really kind of sick of her life a bit. She's an angsty teenager. She wants to get away from her family. She wants to move away from her small hometown. She feels like she's destined for more, and she also kind of knows that she likes girls, and she doesn't know how to tell anyone in her real life about this, so she's been keeping it hidden, keeping it a secret. But then she meets this girl, Selkie, and Morgan thinks that she's kind of having a drowning-induced nightmare. So when Selkie appears and kind of helps rescue her, Morgan kisses her, thinking that it's a dream, thinking it's not real. It was real. Selkie was real. Selkie, actually her name is Kelty. She is a Selkie, which is like a seal shifter. Kelty, because Morgan kissed her, can now become a human for a certain amount of time. She is kind of following Morgan around, not really understanding why Morgan is not reciprocating her feelings and like excited for her to be there. Again, Morgan's an angsty teenager and she's like, you're embarrassing me in front of my friends. Like, who are you? Where'd you come from? But she also is drawn to Kelty and feels this connection to her. And so the girls spend more time together. They start to fall in love, but there's also this underlying plot where environmental factors are going to destroy Kelty's home and her family, who are like regular seals. And so they're trying to stop this, and Morgan is trying to grapple and come to terms with her sexuality and how she's going to tell people in her life, if she's going to tell people in her life, that kind of thing. So really good book, really cute, really sweet. I loved the romance between Morgan and Kelty. I just thought it was so sweet and so cute and so like coming of age, innocent, lovely. The art style is amazing. It's a really cute, quick read. I liked seeing Morgan come into herself, and her relationships with her family and friends were really well done and really sweetly done. And Molly Knox Ostertag is like one of my favorite graphic novel authors. She writes just the best graphic novels. I love them so much. Definitely, if you can find this one at your local bookstore or library, check it out. It's definitely worth it. All right, and those were all of my new Sapphic romance recommendations. I hope you enjoyed this video and you found some good stuff to add to your TBR. Let me know about your favorite Sapphic books that I may have missed in the comments down below. I'm also always looking for recommendations. Also, don't forget to do all the fun YouTube stuff. Subscribe if this is your first time seeing my channel. I would love to have you. I post queer bookish content over here all the time. Definitely subscribe to find out when I post new stuff. Like this video if you liked it, leave me a comment down below. You can also follow me on all social media. Those links are in the description. I'm particularly active on Instagram, Goodreads, Storygraph. I think that's everything for me. So thank you so much for being here and for watching this video. I really, really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one real soon. Bye.